Hello, my name is Francis Fox. I'm not feeling so great today, so if I don't sound like myself, it's because I'm not feeling like myself. We have great news. So I'm going to go ahead with the great news first. The United States has been under a frequency attack. Interesting, the frequency is 988, which is, excuse me, a frequency that releases emotions. So you can say that it is a frequency. Darn, now it's my right eye that's looking kind of weird. Oh well, I'm gonna have to wear dark glasses like Macron, except I'm winning. I don't have any bruising, but I am limping a little bit with the because those are attacks. Those are invasions that you're seeing in people when their eyes are getting bruised. Uh, my eyes are not getting bruised; they're getting hurt, but they're getting changed, and I can say that my number one enemy at this point is the Vatican. So I'm going to do my ADD thing. The Vatican. When we did a lot of our major work within the last month in Venezuela, I said that there were going to be three enemies for Venezuela in the future. One was going to be the Red Cross. The second one was going to be the Vatican coming in business suits, wanting to position themselves so that they could take the lead, having to do with resources and ETs needing those resources. And I don't remember what the third group was. At some point, I will find it. But interesting that this week, I believe it was the daughter of the duly elected president of Venezuela was gave a statement that representatives from the Vatican were blackmailing her. They want something. I think I'm not exactly sure what it is that they wanted, but they definitely are being bullies. And you can look it up in the news. It would have been Edmundo, which was the duly elected president. His daughter gave a statement within the last 3 or 4 days about the Vatican bullying her father. So, another verification that the phrase La loca no está tan loca, which means the crazy lady is not so crazy, is accurate. Many, many years ago, when we did not really know, the government knew my accuracy, but I didn't, and neither did the people that I was dealing with, normal people. Within several years, people would come up to me and say, you told me this years ago, and I didn't know what you were talking about, and I thought maybe you were like a little bit off or crazy and not a really good psychic. And then, you know what? You were right. And so I started to say the crazy lady's not so crazy. So you know what? The crazy lady's not so crazy. The Vatican are bullies, have always been. And now it turns out that the information about what really happened to Christ and what he really tried to share with us was blocked intentionally by the Vatican. Thank God in Ethiopia they have all the original books, and those at this point, at the ending of this cycle on planet Earth, that information is being released. So you may want to start following what it is that I teach about the human energy system, because that's all in the Lord's Prayer, the original Aramaic, not the version that we were taught. But now I got off track. And what I want to tell you is what we did today. There's been a lot of stuff on X about this electromagnetic storm and how it was predicted these several earthquakes in particular places, and they happened in those places, and they're missing the big one in California. So I said, okay, to my group, let's get together. And we got together an hour ago. We just finished maybe 15 minutes ago. And people said, well, let's clear the world because in Russia there's too much snow. I said, no, we're going to go where my masters told me to go, my spiritual masters, and that's the United States. So we did. We called in our SWAT teams, which are spiritual beings that are in mythology and that would totally correspond with what it is that is the original teachings of Jesus, but not what you learned. We called in dragons and a virgin, the virgin that undoes knots, etc. And we accomplished a lot. Let me tell you what it is. We didn't accomplish a lot. We accomplished miracles. What was it that we found? We were getting controlled by frequencies, and the major frequency was again 988. which I wouldn't have thought that you would use that frequency as a weapon. But I guess if you stimulate everybody's repressed emotions, you're going to have what the Mayans talked about, which was a whole lot of unhappy, really unhappy people. So we cut the streams of those frequencies. Let me show you the map, because I did a map. We have the double Merkaba, which means we have double protection from the Galactic Federation because the United States is aligned. This was prior to healing. Florida, totally cursed. All those X's are black magic. The coast of Texas, that I always call it Elon's coast, lots of black magic. And California, lots of black magic. So we cleared that, and we stopped the frequencies. There was a lot of stuff tied up. That concept of tying up strings is in the original Lord's Prayer. And that's how you tie yourself up, and black magicians can tie you up with your mind strings, which are strings, the ones from string theory, except the people from strings theory would not ever want to accept that this is what's in the Lord's Prayer, because it's just too simple and too beautiful. That stuff was untied. Then we got a big opening in the center of the United States, a big round opening, and the color green, which is the color of heart and the color of healing, came up. And then we got a vector, a pyramid with an eye at the top, an emerald. And then a lot of those triangles that we would see, and probably would still see, in the Gulf of Mexico. It's half of the Merkaba, and it's the vector with the point that pointed up. My language, I'm tired. So even in English, I'm going to be limping. So the conclusion was fabulous. We were able to stabilize. Does that mean nothing else is going to happen? No. Does that mean that they can't continue to do bad things, the men that were doing this? No. But I suspect they're not going to be able to do what they wanted to do, which was totally aligned with the geomagnetic storms, which made us apparently weak. I didn't really go into that. We just went into what's broken and let's get it fixed. When we started to work, I could see a group of men, and they were angry that we had showed up. And a couple of other people in the chat could see them also. They were upset that we were showing up, because what we're doing is the galactic shamanism. We're balancing the elements. So we brought in a lot of water. We actually cooled down that group. Anyway, I'm too tired to really explain it well, but what I can say is that the United States is now energetically, and in terms of catastrophes and the elements and bad things that could happen, about 1,000 times more stable. Can they grab the reins of power again and do stuff? They could. I suspect the moment has passed for them to be able to create the most damage. But we will see. In retrospect, in the future, we'll look back and go, oh, so what was supposed to happen didn't happen. The future's elastic and plastic, and prophecy is when you're saying where you're going to end up if you don't get off that path. So if a prophet says something and they're wrong, it doesn't mean that they were wrong. It means that somebody got off the path. They made a different decision. They did a U-turn. They stopped doing what they were doing that would land them in that place that the prophet talked about. So when they talked about all these catastrophes that were going to happen, it doesn't mean that they were inaccurate. It means that somebody did something. And at this point, I could tell you that, yes, we did do something. It was very obvious, and it was also extremely easy. In the other dimensions, and this is a law, and that may be in the Ethiopian version of the Bible, as above, so below. In this dimension, there's time measurements and there's space measurements. There is no time, and there are no measurements in the other dimensions. So the United States in this dimension is like really big, but in the other dimensions, the United States could be the size of the nail on your small finger. And that's how we work it. We don't work it like we're real tiny and the United States is really big. We work at the United States is kind of small and we're kind of big and powerful. But anybody can do that in the other dimensions, which is why I teach white magic, repeatable miracles. Okay, you need to get real comfortable with the word interface, having to, which is the connecting of two systems, because that is what the whole planet Earth connecting with galactic, becoming part of the galactic family, what a romantic way of saying it. Planet Earth no longer being protected from all sorts of evil galactic beings, but also good ones. And let's remember that aliens put in a petition via me that they want to be able to land visibly because they can do whatever they want. We don't have any way of stopping them. But there was a request, a petition to be able to land to where they would be visible in the Philippines. And I don't know what it is that happened next. I gave the message and I don't know what's going to happen next. But we will be interfacing with aliens. So get used to the word. And I strongly suggest that you start becoming familiar with my work because, to my knowledge, I'm the only one that has done this much work on the human assemblage of bodies and mind strings. Because you see, the body that's all the way on the left is the human body. But that body could look like any of those beings that are in Star Wars. They could look like the little grays, and they could still have the other bodies. I don't think that they're going to have the second body because that's an electric body and it has to do with being on planet Earth. But I don't know. But you can change the body on the left. Okay. People have different types of consciousness. I have dolphin consciousness. Trump has angelic consciousness. Elon has dolphin consciousness. My kids are dolphin consciousness. I have two grandchildren that are whale consciousness. Venezuela is mainly angelic consciousness. I assume that Cuba is mainly dolphin. Okay, what does that mean in terms of this that you're seeing on camera? It means that that body to the left, the human body, could be a dolphin. So my appearance on the physical dimension, in terms of what I have determined to be seen as, is a human being. But I am, at a more profound level, a dolphin. Does that mean I have the other bodies? I think so, but that's something I'm going to start studying next week. So if you know the assemblage of bodies and you just look at them, the ETs that look kind of weird, you can say I have a human physical body and they have a different type of physical body, like in that bar scene that you need to become very comfortable with in Star Wars, where Han Solo walks into a bar and there's all these different weird looking creatures and they're having drinks and conversing. You have to get used to that because that's the way it's going to be. Now, it's obviously going to be chaotic for a lot of people and a lot of people. Ontological shock, absolutely. But if you can look at them and go, it's the physical that's different, but what is their intention, which is what's really important, even with the physical human assemblage of bodies. But I'll go more into that at another point. So in terms of interface, I'm already setting up Fox protocols for interfacing successfully. And what does that mean? You can end up doing business with them. You could be some of the first people that end up doing business with aliens. Francis, you're so materialistic. No, I'm not. In Star Wars, the whole battle has to do with resources of the different planets. In terms of today, the ETs need resources that we have to exist and to power their spaceships. Well, it's either rape or it's business. And it is our intention that we turn it into a business model so that everybody can benefit, so that there's an even exchange. Because they have more power, they should be able to just take. That doesn't work in the first place. Not all of the ETs are bad and would want to do that. But in order to do business with them, you have to have some kind of a link Well, one of the first things is telepathy. So tomorrow I'm giving a class in which I'm going to tell each participant, there's not very many participants, what is their biggest block to developing their telepathy, which is the original language on the planet, and is the language we are going to be using with the ETs. And again, oh man, I do not feel well. There's a book called Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. It was written in the 50s, I think. And the only thing I remember of it is the telepathy experiment. Russia's big, they have more than one language. They had one woman in one city who spoke a language, another woman in another city, she spoke her language, which was not the language of the other woman. They sent telepathic messages back and forth. Each one of them received the message in the language that they understood. Wow. Instant translation. That's the way it is. So I'm going to start giving seminars. Tomorrow's my first one, having to do with getting unblocked in using your telepathy so that you can start feeling comfortable in your process of dealing with the aliens. There's two reasons I'm doing that. Porque me da la gana. That means in English because I feel like it. And I'm a bit of a brat. That's okay. I got to act out someplace. And the second one is because once you start to look at it, the situation of the interface, it won't feel as chaotic if you feel that you're developing some skills that put you a little bit more in control of your destiny when we have this interfacing. This interface is coming together. Rather than it being an ontological shock, you can go, okay, I'm already preparing to deal with this, and I'm actually positioning myself to deal with this. Interspecies communication. Every time, I've been saying this for 30 years. I was trained in interspecies communication. Do you know how dumbed down people are, which is really blocked people are, having to do with all of this type of information? I have never had somebody say to me, does that mean you talk to aliens? I have people say, oh, pet psychic. That connection is valid because the way I teach interspecies communication is you're already doing it with your pet. You're already doing it with your lover. So let's take a hold of that and let's develop it intentionally. Congressman Luna, who's apparently been put in charge of the disclosure in aliens. It's good because she's, I think, Mexican or half Mexican. Mexicans, they're not going to go into ontological shock at all. Neither is most of Latin America. The United States is, but not Latin America. They go, oh, we know. Oh yeah, my uncle, he used to have ETs come and visit him all the time. I had one visit me everybody has stories and they believe it. They don't do like in the United States that you feel ashamed of saying that because people are going to think you're dumb, superstitious, low IQ, low income. El pan de cada día. That means their daily bread. Everybody, not just in Peru and not just in Mexico, knows about that. Okay, so she says that the aliens may have controlled the Bible text. Nah, it was the Vatican. We're going to blame the aliens now. It was the Vatican. The Vatican. Bullies? Oh, nope, I'm being told not to say that. This AI integration into society is going to create even more neurosis and anxiety. I don't like AI. It's a Ouija board. It's a portal letting spirits in. I don't have AI. Yes, I do have AI because I have Word from Microsoft. You get AI there. I was signed up for Grammarly for spell check. You have AI there. I get dizzy. They change my sentences. Okay, Francis, so you're not, you're older, you're not that used to. You know what? lots of confusion, a lot of messages sent, and that wasn't what you wanted to say, but AI went to change something and they changed the whole meaning. That's the whole planet now. It's a big problem, but I'm not going to talk, not my department. I said what I had to say. It's a Trojan horse. It's letting the bad guys in. It's a backdoor, and you love it every step of the way. It's not going to work for you long term. That's okay. Somebody else is going to have to deal with it. So, one of the interesting things when we were doing the clearing an hour ago is that there was dust. And I remember Trump in his speech was giving a very nice speech. I don't remember exactly what it was that was being said. And then he kind of trailed off and he said, oh, yeah, and kind of like dust, like COVID, there was dust there and we cleared it an hour ago. So I think that just like COVID was released onto us and we think it was just through the injections, that was not exactly what we saw when we looked at COVID several years ago. And that dust that Trump said but didn't give any importance to, I think is real important. And we could see it when we doing the clearings. I think we cleared it. We can go back and check, and we should go back and check. It was shorter than I would have wanted, but I wasn't feeling well, and I promised myself I would do this chat in English. So I did not stay any longer. Charles, this is not the place for what it is that you want to share. There are a lot of appropriate places, okay? I think we're all using telepathy at some level. The thing is, the same way we're all psychic at some level, you need to be able to call it up. You need to be able to use it, and to the extent you want to use it, when you want to use it. Like people, I can do that. Okay. I'm a really good psychic. I get a lot of information. Okay, you get it. But when you need something, can you get it in that moment at that time and exactly the way you want it, not with a ton of other information? Well, no, but that's what it is that I would hopefully be training you in. Okay, so I think that that is about it. And of course, the whole ET situation is the ET situation is certainly more important than the ET revelations is certainly more important than the revelations about what the Vatican did with the Bible, which basically the biggest religion in the world is Catholic Christianity. It's all wrong. In the Ethiopian, not version, in the complete 80 books instead of 60 some books that the Bible gave, there was no crucifixion. And I'm going to say this, the whole story, if I came home from school, my mom said, what did you learn today? Well, I learned that there was the Son of God came and he did this great stuff and then they crucified him. My mother would say, who the hell's going to believe that story? He was the Son of God and he was like God. He wouldn't have been crucified. They wouldn't be able to do that to him. We believe the story because it was mass hypnosis. And I have always been tempted to say, and I'll say it now, Jesus Christ was crucified. He was on that, 48 hours it took him to die, and they put nails in his hands and feet and a crown of thorns on his head. That is nothing compared to what any military mind control victim went through. Multiply that by 10,000 is what we went through, more than Christ did. Story doesn't make sense. This is not a reflection on Christ. This is a reflection on how controlled information has been and how much disinformation the Vatican has become an expert at in order to keep us under control, believing stuff that doesn't make sense even to a 10-year-old. And yet we believe it because it's a religion. And then all the talk about spirits that's in the books that they have in Ethiopia about Christ totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. What we were sold doesn't make sense, and we bought it hook, line, and sinker, and we are living our life based on that. I'm kind of happy with myself that I allowed myself to put myself in what I thought was a place of danger by saying, quit with this whole Christianity thing. Go to Christ himself. What did he do? He did healings. You know, you're not even allowed to. My son's a lawyer. He said to me, you cannot use the word healing. Well, what I do is healings. You can't use that word. Only medical doctors can do that. But there's no medical doctor that would ever say he gave a healing. He's not allowed. Who's able to give a healing? Nobody legally in this country. You could end up in jail. Like you discover cancer cures, you could end up dead. That's ending. Thank God. So that's it. So let's watch the weather. Let's watch. Oh, I also tweaked a little bit having to do with the shenanigans in the Higgs field of the United States that would allow for all this snowfall to completely set us back, because it'll be the biggest catastrophic event in the history of the United States. Hopefully it won't be that. We'll continue to work on it. I'm signing off. But double galactic protection for the United States. We look really, really good. Okay? Back to the Vatican. They have a lot of people in those dungeons underneath in their basement that they work on. A lot of people. Can you take them out, Trump? Hit them behind the knees? And they want the universities and the schools. Why would they want that? There's not that much money made in universities and schools, if any. They want our children. Are you going to give them our children, Trump? When they say, okay, we'll stop doing all that stuff, but we can't take down the universities and the schools. Why not? Biggest sex trafficking operation in the history of the planet was done by the Vatican in 61, Operation Peter Pan, and you're going to allow them to keep their universities and their Catholic schools? They have no power anymore. Their power was when everything was hidden. Okay? Thank you for joining me. Bye.